Welcome to the Profiler Task Force, PTF. My name's Janine Driver. I'm going to be your host for tonight. The four of us, four women profilers who, when COVID hit and our speaking platforms were put on hold or adjusted, we came together and said, hey, maybe we could do something where we combine our talents and our profiling expertise and help you at home. And that's what we did. We created the Profiler Task Force. We're on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course on a podcast if you're listening to us over there. My name's Janine Driver. I'll be your host just for tonight. We take turns each month, and we put together this program. We're so excited because we all have gut feelings, and are you listening to yours? For every one message that comes from the brain to your stomach, there are 8 or 9 messages going from your stomach to your brain. Are you overriding them? Or are you listening to them? Let's go in and introduce you to the profilers. Up first, Miss Lena Cisco.
Hi, everyone. I am a former Navy intel officer and Marine Corps certified interrogator who interrogated members of Al-Qaeda and Taliban shortly after 9/11 down in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Since that time, I have been training law enforcement personnel, military personnel, and government agency personnel in interviewing, interrogation, detecting deception, and elicitation. And I did a TV show for 3 years as an expert witness catching lies. Susan, over to you.
Hi, my name is Susan Ivitz. I'm a human behavior hacker. Some people hack computers. I just happen to hack humans. My expertise is in face reading profiling and reading faces with masks. I work with lawyers, lobbyists, politicians, sales rep, and manager to help them to understand the platinum rule. Talk to others how they need to be talked, not how you want it to be talked. Michelle, tell us about your handwriting.
Hi, my name is Michelle Dresbold, and I am a handwriting expert. I've investigated murders, arson, embezzlement, all different types of things, anything that has to do with handwriting. I can pretty much tell anything about a person from their handwriting, if they're patient, impatient, how intelligent they are, what motivates them, what keeps them back in life. Just about anything. If you don't want to know something about yourself, don't show me your handwriting. And how about you, Janine?
All right, I'll land the ship here. So my expertise is 17 years with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF. My dad used to say I turned my hobbies into a career, drinking, smoking, and shooting. I don't know any of those things half as much as I used to. And I wrote a book called You Say More Than You Think. It was translated in over 15 languages. And then I wrote a book, You Can't Lie to Me. And the rest is history. I work with everyday people just like you, from corporate America to entrepreneurs to moms doing the best that we can to single dads doing the best they can. I'm so excited to be here. Ladies, before we dive in, tonight's topic is Chris Watts. This has been around for some time now. As a matter of fact, I did a TED Talk, how to read the body language of murderers to get what you want or something like that. It's the year that I did it, it's watched by almost 2 million people, went crazy viral. I wasn't surprised. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I weighed in before Chris Watts confessed to murdering his pregnant wife, Shan'ann, and their unborn son, along with his 2 daughters, Celeste and Bella. I weighed in the same day he confessed that night. So it's an emotional one for me. I followed this journey right from the beginning, and I appreciate you letting me choose this as our topic tonight. First, though, before we dive in, I'm curious, before we get into Chris Watts, by the way, which Netflix has a series on right now that is a must-see. And it's not what I expected. It's literal footage and messages from Shan'ann herself. It's like no show I've ever seen. First, I would like to know, it piqued my curiosity listening to you intro tonight. How does knowing what you know, how does it affect your relationships? I'm just curious. I have to say, I mean, maybe we ended this out, but I want to know, like, how does this, knowing what you know, how does this affect your relationship? Since tonight we're talking about the relationship between a killer and his unsuspecting wife.
Lena,
I know. Oh, Susan, go ahead. Take it.
Oh, we were supposed to be alphabetical order. I always says it's a curse and it's a bless. It's a blessing because allow me to have a better relationship with others, but it's a curse because people use it against me. Like, stop interrogating me. Like, no, I'm just a pissed off girlfriend who you was late for the cinema, so don't use it against me. If I need to choose to between know what I know and not knowing, I will not gonna change it one day of my life. I love it. I breathe it. I don't know what else to do. If I'm going to work in any burger joint, I will be fired in 5 minutes. I don't know what else to do.
Lena Cisco, how does it affect your relationship with your husband?
You know what? I just say I pick and choose my battles, and some just not worth it.
You got that right. That's a good one. All right. How about you, Michelle? Does it affect your personal life?
It usually doesn't, except this type of case is the kind that affects me the most. It's when somebody appears to be nice. I think cases where they're crazy, you can see they've been in horrible things all their life. But when somebody seems to be the perfect husband, the perfect everything, I think these are by far the scariest cases, because we've all been through things and we all go, wait, am I this lucky, or is this something I need to be aware of? I mean, luckily I do know the handwriting. I do look at it for myself. I do look at it for friends. And I tell, before people date, I say, look at the handwriting, because once you're involved, you can't be objective anymore.
Along your lines, Michelle, it puts me in a really pissy mood because no one can kind of talk me down out of it, because it's very sad when you see what we saw even before this Netflix series came out. We all saw suspicious behavior with Chris Watts, and I think we all would agree that we knew it wasn't going to be good news. So let's dive in with the Chris Watts convicted murderer, how he killed his pregnant wife, Shan'ann, and his two young daughters, Celeste and Bella. Netflix comes out with a series called American Murder, The Family Next Door. When a friend of mine told me about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to watch this. And I was riveted. As a matter of fact, I'll probably watch it a couple more times. And the reason is I've never, ever seen a documentary like this. It's literally it's like Shan'ann, who was pregnant and murdered at the hands of her husband. It's like her voice comes back from the dead because it's video and audio messages from Shan'ann herself. It's video footage of the kids. It's video footage of Chris Watts playing with the kids. It is shocking. So who is this Chris Watts? He was just really a con man at the end of the day. He killed his family on August 13, 2018. In November that same year, he pled guilty for first degree murder. He killed his pregnant wife here, Shan'ann, and his two young, unbelievable, gorgeous, adorable little kids, Celeste and Bella. I'm a mother of 3 sons myself. This case really influenced me. I did a TED Talk on it, and I was very emotional in the TED Talk. I tend to be an emotional person anyway. Devastating. 2015, this family filed for bankruptcy. They were financially struggling, but does it mean that you turn to murder? There was a mistress involved. This case was very layered and without a doubt, massive signs of deception right out of the gate. Shanann's best friend, Nicole, was suspicious right in the beginning. And so here's this family that you look at, and I was approached, hey, can you weigh in on this case, this missing pregnant mother and the 2 kids? And I'm like, what is this? And first, we all go in with an unbiased approach, right? I don't know anything about this family, and everyone's like, they're a good family. He's a good guy. People were suspicious. And I just went in and said, okay, what's going on here? And then it gets deeper and deeper as you go down the rabbit hole. One text message from Shan'ann to her friend said, Chris doesn't want the baby. He's scared to death, and he's happy with just Bella and Celeste. He thought he wanted another baby. How do I get this out of him? I said, do you want me to abort? Unbelievable as this case began to unravel. Listen. Being asked about the 3rd child, there is no affect with Chris Watts here, nothing. We see him swaying back and forth. We'll go deeper into the body language in a minute and some statement analysis. What does his face say? And what about his handwriting? Here's the post I put on August 15th, 2018. Remember, he pled guilty in November. So here's my first post. I read the story and watched the video below. First and foremost, I pray for this pregnant mother and her 2 daughters that are safe and well. And it seems like this husband father is loved by several people here. So I hope my analysis is wrong. As you might imagine, there is not one way we all respond to shock. There are several ways. And with that being said, this husband, dad's behavior is incredibly suspicious. And in this TED Talk, I pointed out that there's this duping delight, this happiness. And I won't go into that in more details here. You can check that out online if you want. It's over on YouTube. But there was unbelievable in my world, the body language, right? So we have anger and long eye closes and eye fluttering and disgust and duping delight. And what was missing sometimes is the key to the biggest puzzle here. I think of this TV show called a long time ago called House. Sometimes it's the thing that's missing. And what's missing here is what? What do you think, ladies? What's missing out of these emotions here?
Sadness.
Sadness, and what else is missing?
Pain, sadness.
Fear. So fear and sadness, we're not here in these interviews, but we have everything else, right, under the gamut, but fear and sadness. Immediately, I was horrified. What I'll be talking about later in my segment is disgust. What does it mean? What does it indicate? And how come we see disgust on a missing dad's face? First, let's dive into the profilers and hear what you have to say about this case. I want to turn it over to Lena Cisco. When it comes to interrogation and it comes to statement analysis, what did you see, hear? What would you have asked? Let's hear what you have to say.
All right, everybody. So I'm going to start off with sharing a video because in my world, although I am a word nerd and I love to analyze what people say, you have to look at the nonverbal message as well. And when I teach my classes, especially to law enforcement, I tell them about the marriage, right? The marriage between the nonverbal and the verbal message, or we want to look for that congruency or incongruency. So although words are huge in my life, and when I saw this real time, I knew immediately this guy did it. In fact, I was jumping around my living room going, he did it. He did it. He's the one. Like I instantly knew, but who was I going to tell? Anyway, I'm going to tell you why I knew after you look at this video.
I think she just took off. Do you think?
I mean, right now, I don't even want to just like throw anything out there. Like, I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. But I mean, could she event? Could she just taken off? I don't know. But if somebody has her and they're not safe, like I want them back now. Like that's what's in my head. Like if they're safe right now, they're gonna come back. But if they're not safe right now, that's the not knowing part. Like if they're not safe, last night I had every light in the house on, and it was just a traumatic night trying to be here.
I'm gonna ask some kind of tough questions. Your relationship with your kids.
Yeah, my kids are my life.
Okay, so aside from what I heard, I'm going to tell you what I saw first of all, and it was a lot of disgust, and this is what it looks like. So if you look on the screen, it's when the upper lip comes up to the nose. So you can see disgust 2 ways, right here with the crinkle, or you can see it with just the upper lip raising and nothing happening in the nose. Either way, it means that this person is disgusted with whatever they're saying or talking about. Now, some of you could think, well, yeah, he's disgusted because he can't find his wife and kids. That's not it. Let's go to the next slide. Because this is what I saw through the whole entire thing, and I should not be seeing it. Why on earth, Chris Watts, are you smiling through this entire interview? If your wife and your 2 baby girls just vanished and you're giving this interview, you don't know where they're at and you're smiling, it disgusted me. I had disgust on my face as I was watching this, and I instantly knew there's something going on. So Dr. Paul Ekman calls this the duper's delight. We like to call it the cat that ate the canary smile. There are some times when people lie, they just can't help but to leak that little smile as if to say, I'm lying to you and you have no idea. Yeah, Chris, we do have an idea, actually. So he smiled through that the entire thing. So let me tell you what I heard. And if you can't remember or want to go back, you can always go back into this video and listen to that clip again. But let me break it down for you. So there are critical elements that immediately grabbed my attention. Number one, he says, I hope that she's somewhere safe right now with the kids. I'm sorry, whose kids are they? I think they're yours too, right? So when people use the kids, the marriage, the wife, it just tells me that you're not using my kids or our kids, and that's distancing. Okay, so a lot of people who don't want anything to do with the lie or the negative event or their family members will take away the I, the my, the our, and replace it with the kids. Okay, so that was number one. Then he does the classic word slip. He starts to talk about her vanishing, and he goes, if she has oops, I can't say vanish because that sounds too incriminating. So let me change it up. And he stops and immediately goes on to say, could have just taken off. Really, Chris? Do you think your wife and your 2 baby girls just took off? Because I don't. So then the next one is, if somebody has her and they're not safe. I think I talked about my rules of grammar before. If you violate rules of grammar when it comes to pronouns, there's something wrong. You're hiding something. So he starts off that sentence by talking about if somebody has her and they're safe. It doesn't make sense. It should be she's safe, but all of a sudden now it becomes there. So which is it, Chris? Is it her or is it there? I don't know. Then he says, like, I want them back now. You have to add the word like. Are you kidding me? Okay, I want them back now. To me, this sounded exactly like Barry Morphew when he was talking about his wife. I want her back now. Really? Well, maybe if you didn't kill them, you could have her back. The next thing, he stutters and his rate increases so much. He starts to do this thing called double talk. And I have to credit Janine because I learned that from her. It's when they're just rambling on and not making any sense at all. Why? Because he's reached cognitive overload. He is so stressed out. Cortisol is releasing that the brain starts to shut down because our limbic brain, our primitive brain starts taking over. And that's our emotions, right? Where the prefrontal cortex, our thinking brain, just shuts down. And he can't even make clear statements or sentences anymore. So he goes on to ramble about all this stuff. And then he ends on that video clip talking about what I call fluff. And yes, I do teach fluff to my law enforcement classes. It's a whole lot of nothing about nothing. And when people start adding a lot of fluff that doesn't make any sense, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, I know you're trying to smoke screen me. Okay, so the fluff is, I went home, I had all the lights on and blah, 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 blah. This is what I heard. You're not telling me anything, Chris, but you're telling me a lot, but it's not good. He says at one point, he talks about being a very traumatic night at the house. Yet as he tells us this, he leaks this big old smile. And then he does a hard swallow. That just tells me, yep, cortisol has released because Chris Watts, you are drying out now. So when we get so nervous and cortisol releases in the body, 2 things dry out. Our eyeballs dry out. And if I don't have a contact problem or if I don't have dry eye and it's not my normal baseline and I start to do this, it means my eyes are drying out from cortisol. If I start to hard swallow, meaning you can really see that swallow happening. It means I have no saliva going on. Why? Because I'm drying out, because I'm nervous. So I see this hard swallow and immediately right after that hard swallow, bam, what you see on your screen. So again, another little tidbit I picked up from Janine Driver. When you don't like what you see and hear, your lips will disappear. He is just closing off everything. He can't take what is happening around him. He is so stressed out. And so he's shutting down and closing in his lips. You can't even see any lips there. And at the very end of this, he says, my kids are my life. And he laughs about it and he looks away. And let's go to the next slide, Susan. And that's what you see. So at some point, Chris Watts, please stop smiling about your missing wife and children. Janine, back to you.
Lena, very interesting. For you listening at home, we don't talk about in advance the profilers, what we're going to be discussing. And so I find it interesting, out of all the body language moves with Chris Watts, you focused on disgust in particular. And I too will be focusing on disgust. I'm going to take it in a different direction for people to really put themselves in the shoes of what is that disgust. And we'll get to that in a bit. First, any questions from Susan Ibitz or Michelle of Lena Cisco and what she shared?
I would like, most people don't understand what is duping delight. Can you explain for the people who haven't been trained what is duping delight?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like the cat ate the canary grin, like, oh, I'm getting away with something, so I'm secretly happy about it. So we smile for 3 reasons, right? Number 1, I'm just happy and I smile. Number 2, I'm embarrassed. I did something, whatever. Number 3, I'm getting away with something. And it's just that little smirk, that smile that says, ha ha, nobody knows my secret, but I did something, right?
You know, especially when they're out of, you know, when it's out of context and it doesn't belong there. So like, I'll give you an example. If I fired you from your job and you smile, you're like, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm like, are they going to key my car? Are they going to slam me on social media? Like, it's those, and you see this with a lot of murderers too, when they show evidence of the person they killed, like their wife or even a kid, you can see them smiling in the court, like, I got you, like I'm the boss here. It's very spooky. I love that you talked about that duping delight. Questions, Michelle?
No, my only question is, if we take it and we make a video and do it very slowly, we can pick up these things. How hard is it to pick it up when you're just in real life and very quickly the person's smirking or giving you a kind of a lips in? Do we pick that up subconsciously, or do we have to watch something in slow motion?
So I think it's like exercising a muscle, really, because when you learn what to look for, you need to constantly see it. And the more you see it, the more you're going to pick up on it. But if you stop and your brain gets lazy, it's going to be a lot harder. So you do have to work out your brain, I say.
Right.
Okay,
And with that,
thank you.
and think with duping delight, you know, it could be embarrassment. I remember I was on court TV years ago and a woman killed her parents and told the story on the stand that the reason she killed them, her and her brother, was the father was raping her. One time he raped her with a gun in her mouth and she was like 8 years old. And when she told that story, she was laughing on the stand. And I think if you are new to reading people, you might think that that's duping delight and she's a liar. But you want to stop and say, wait a minute, could she be embarrassed? And the answer is yes, right? Because she said she had never said that story out loud. She'd only written it to her girlfriend once. And here she is in a courtroom with cameras in front of people. And so she was smiling. So sometimes if you fire someone and they're smiling, it might not be that they're going to key your car. Maybe they're embarrassed that they, you know, kind of knew it was coming because they really weren't working as hard as they probably should have.
Yeah.
So be careful.
Everything is have a context.
Yeah, be careful accusing people. All right, let's go over to you, Susan Ibitz. I'm curious, and you know, sitting on the edge of my seat here, on what you're going to weigh in on with Chris Watts, because I'm sure his face reveals way more than you might think.
From all the cases that we have seen until now, this is the one who's going to take me a little longer, because this is a chance to show you how we see faces in a wrong way. I'm going to show you how we are not the same person on the right side, on the left side, our face. So stay paying attention, because this is going to make your role a different picture. Every channel of behavior have a specialty that can fascinate it. In my case, is asymmetry. What is asymmetry? It's the difference and imbalance in part of your face. First of all, the right part of your brain has to do with your emotions and is reflected on the left part of your brain. Left brain has to do with the external world and is reflected on the right part of your face. And I'm not the only person studying face reading of physiognomy who has been around us for 5,000 years. And believe me, it's being used in policy consultant, it's being used in jury selection, it's being used in negotiation, it's being used in cell. So if you want to deny the face readings being out there, you're missing the boat, because it's happening as people get training. We do a lot of training. I've been doing this for 28 years. So believe me, it's thousands of people out there. They're different. Nobody say it, because it's kind of spooky how much you can know about a person even we don't know them. So Professor Ian Dairy decided from the University of Edinburgh to study Gordon Ramsay and Tracy Amin, and I'm trying to understand why they're so volatile. And he found out that both has between 10 and 15 different features, height and shapes, and both part of the face. What it meant? Remember the personal, the right brain and the left brain? What happened when they cannot collide?
because they're not in balance. So today we're going to talk more about asymmetry and symmetry to start digging deeper and deeper in what is face reading and what are the signs that you need to see on people when you met them. First of all, you see Tina Fey. I already spoke you that she is asymmetric on the face, but you're not realize how much asymmetric she is until I got 2 right sides and 2 left side of the face and I put it together. Spooky, no? It looked like another person, different eyes, eyebrows, nose, cheek, mouth, chin, and I can go forever. I've been told that she have a volatile personality, and that can be the reason why. Now, the guest of the night, Mr. Chris Watts. Now, we're gonna measure eyes. How I determine if an eye is big or small, and what is the distance between eyes. From the outer contour of the eyes to the inner contour, you either gonna draw a line or a box. You're gonna grab one of those boxes and you're gonna put it in the middle of the eyes. In this case, he have a big, wide distance between eyes. It's a person who is concentrated on the journey and not on the destination. We call it he's gonna be late to his own funeral. What it mean? He wasn't thinking about the consequences of what is gonna happen if he does something. He wasn't thinking on the consequences that if he having sex with his wife, kids are going to come in. If you're getting married, you need to have a house. You need to have a mortgage. If you have an extramarital relationship, you got probably going to get divorced. That kind of personalities are not thinking on the final consequences as what they do. Another thing, this picture was taken, I think 1.5 years or 2 years before he committed the murders. You're going to see the chin is straight. He was really committed and he was really harsh with his words. Now, we find the first asymmetry. The eyes are different level. Second of all, they're not aligned with the face. Now, I know you guys are fascinated with ears, so I mark it. Can you see the difference on the ears? They're not only different size, different shape, and different height. Ears has to do how I intake information. So he was intaking information in a completely conflict all the time. What the external world was telling him and his internal thoughts were telling him never collide, because that's my antenna. So it doesn't matter what is in your head. If I don't put the right information in your head, are going spiraling and all over the place. And that's what happened with him. He was intaking information in a different way. The eyes and the eyebrows has to do how I process information. So he was taking information in the wrong way, completely asymmetric. He was processing information in an asymmetric way. Now, chin, the chin changed it from 2 years to for a straight chin to pointy. And no, has nothing to do with the kind of beard. These kind of people do not want to have a boss. They don't want to be bossy. They don't want to tell what to do. What happened in his personal life and in his business life, he felt that other people was making decision from him and decision by him, and he didn't like it. I don't want to be bossy. I don't want you to tell me what to do. So he started being more aggressive when he was talking. And you're going to find people with pointy chin telling you all the time, or they want to tell you what to do. And every time that you tell them what they need to be done, they're going to reciprocate with aggression. Why? Because the chin has to do, everything under the nose has to do how you communicate with others. So his chin and the way that he communicates with others changed it. Now, another asymmetry, the height of the eyebrows and the position on the face and the height of the eyes is asymmetric too. So we've gone on like 6 asymmetries. They're different. Eyebrows, again, has to do with process information. Eye is how we see the world. So another thing that we talk a lot is about proxemic. Proxemic is the way I allow you to get inside my life. It's not only about The physical proxemic has to do with the emotional proxemic. He was more friendly on his business side than his personal side. In his personal side, the proxemic was a little higher, meaning that he was more reserved. He doesn't want to get to others. It takes time for him to allow you to get on his life. And his business side, what everybody knew, he was a cheer up, he was really friendly person. Again, we have a conflict. What is personal? What is my business side? So when you transfer someone from your business side to your personal side, and you have so many asymmetries, when you collide those, they're conflicted all the time. That conflict happened in your head. So we talk again about ears. Different height and different stick out and in. He was thinking outside the box in his business side. He was more attuned with the norms and what he need to be followed in his personal life. He have a turned down mouth. Turned down mouth is when somebody is not positive, is pessimistic. And if we put the turned down mouth with all the asymmetries on the face, and you can see that on his eyes, the end of the eyes, they're turning down. So this has to do with being pessimistic. The mouth has to do with being pessimistic. So everything that you tell him on his personal life and in business side, he will take it as a negative. And again, pointy chin, he think that you're trying to boss in him. So he probably was extremely volatile, and not only on the personal life, I'm sure I was outside too. Now, what happened when you have somebody who have pointy eyebrows and pointy chin? Is somebody who is intimidated and lack of compassion, is detached for the feelings, and is coming me first. When we have these features separated, it's not a problem. The problem is when you put it together. It's a person who's detached from the feelings, is me first. What I need, what I want. What he did is get detached from everything that is under his impression, bother him to have the life that he wants. And again, you see the asymmetries, even though both eyebrows are pointy eyebrows, there was an asymmetry on the different and both. Now, this is one of the most spooky parts, and I pay a lot of attention when I check ears. If you see this ear and round features on the face, you have a Picasso. Now, if you see that feature and the other asymmetries and things that we read, we have a Chris Watt. Why? This part of the ear, the part of the outside of the ear, we call it outer ear cup, meaning that he have his internal world. He have his own religion. He has his own belief. He only trusts what he thinks is real. So between the reality that he confront to the reality he have, it was in his head. And by the way, this is in his personal side. I haven't seen his business side, but we're talking about the personal side. Now, if you go into this part, if you touch your ear, as soon as the outer get end, you're gonna find out your inner ear ridge. People who doesn't have any inner ridge, they tend to be egotistical, may assume their subjectivity and what they think is their own idea. You're gonna find this on people who are on charge of the cult, who are killers, who are detached from the external world. And another thing that struck me the most, he didn't have any compassion lines. Any of the lines on his face who has to do with the men of the age that he had when he committed crimes has to do with either compassion, connecting with others, anything who has to show with feelings. From all the studies that I've been doing in serial killers and killers, you're gonna find the same. They're not compassion lines.
That was fascinating, and it's very interesting because I think a lot about my chin. You know, my mother used to have. They used to call it the Jay Leno chin. You know, would come out really straight. So, I'd love to open it up for questions with Michelle and Lena for you, Susan. You outdid yourself, Susan. You outdid yourself with those boxes around the eyes and around the chin. Like one eye is like way down here. He's like, no, right? It's like crippled little eye, like so small. And the other one was like, that was fascinating. Michelle and Lena, any questions? I loved it.
I have a question. Susan, and I've always heard that symmetrical people are healthier genetically, et cetera, et cetera. Well, and you're basically, if I'm understanding correctly, saying if you're really not symmetrical, you have more emotional or mental issues. But does that mean somebody who's like a model who has a perfect face is mentally more sane? That's my question. So, there's my question. So is somebody who's beautiful, at least in our eyes, with a perfect face, are they mentally more sane, or is that just one teeny aspect? So there's my question.
There are women who think that Chris Watts is extremely attractive man, and they're not going to see the differences. The reason I put the boxes and I was so picky with the symmetry is so we can understand, because this is a learning process to help people to understand better others. So when Harvard did a study in 2001 about symmetry and why in advertisement, they're modifying the pictures and they make it so more symmetry, because our brain takes symmetry as perfection. Nobody have a symmetry face. The point is how asymmetric or symmetric your face is. So my face is asymmetric too. Thank God on the right places, like Janine, Michelle, and Lena, everybody have it. In this case, the places where the asymmetry happen has to do with intake information, process information, feelings, emotions, and how you talk to others. So in this case, the asymmetry happening in places that can be complicated. That's the reason I says, when I show the ears, like most artists have that ear, the way you don't have the inner counter, but it's not a problem. The problem is when you complement it with other things. Okay. So perfection, it's on the behold of the person who see it. If I show Chris Watt to most women in my class, they're like, well, he's kind of attractive. How he can be a serial killer? Like, wait a minute. Let me show you why he was fighting all the time for his own demons in his mind.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Lena, do you have a question?
So when I look at pictures, and I was doing it during your presentation, I will take a piece of paper and block half the face, and then I'll flip it over. And it looks like two separate people, because the expression is like anger and then happy, or it's just bizarre, because it really comes across as two personalities. Why does that happen?
Well, it's happened when they're different in development, different in emotional IQ, different in how you keep your personal life. Not all of us has been working for a long time, like cannot talk to others what we were doing and how we're doing. So I look for pictures of me on my 20s and 30s, and I see that my professional side everything is smaller. Wow. So my ears, everything was smaller. Why? Because everything need to be disappearing. I cannot talk about it, but it has a correlation. When I decide to go back to consulting openly, my features start getting more stabilized, because now I can talk about that. My mouth was smaller. My two lips, upper lips and lower lip, were smaller too. Now I can talk about how I'm feeling, how I do my work, and what I do on my work. If we look in a picture, I love to do studies when somebody comes to me, is like, show me picture from you in 20s, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, until the age they're coming to consult. And I can tell you what happened with your life based on how the features change.
Michelle, you know what you're doing for our viewer at home. You're setting them up for the holiday season to look at everyone's earlobes around Thanksgiving table, Hanukkah, Christmas. Like everyone's going to be like, Nana,
quick secret.
Right to the side, Nana. Aren't you Lean? I want to look at your earlobe for a second.
Let me tell you, earlobes has to do with how good lover you are. Chin and earlobes is the first thing that I read in a man when I met him. Like, let me see your earlobes and your chin. Like, okay, you're good to go.
Oh, really?
You're going to find the secret out in our Patreon after party, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna read whatever you want, and the patron. That's the good part to be patron. You can have. Let's make it big. Then nobody.
Oh, we haven't even talked about Patreon in this episode. So we have a Patreon page, which means you can become an ambassador for our show. We'd love for you to check it out. Lena, how do they find out how to become an ambassador?
So you just go to the Patreon. So it's patreon.com/profiler task force. And then you're going to read all about it. We have a couple of tiers, and each tier that you can become an ambassador of, you get special perks.
Like tonight, we're either going to have a special guest, or we're going to be doing some role plays and decoding what your or your loved ones or someone you don't really love, what are they saying without saying a word? And that happens live 9 p.m. every East Coast time every Wednesday night as well. All right, let's dive in over. And our website is theprofilertaskforce.com. Check us out. We put previous shows there along with additional content. Michelle Dresbold, before I land the plane with some body language stuff about this case that really struck a chord for me, I'd love to know whose handwriting you were analyzing. I'm assuming probably Chris Watts, and what you found out about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Dresbold, author of Sex, Lies, and Handwriting.
Okay, why don't we look at this first slide? Now, do you see this black and white drawing? It looks a little like Janine's hat, but look at the spiral. Do you see how it starts off big? And it goes down, 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 like some spiral or a funnel, as if somebody is spiraling downward. Why don't we look at the handwriting? Now, this is Chris Watts' handwriting. Now, the very first thing, and I'm an artist, so you want to look at it as a big picture. Notice that it starts off big. And if you remember that spiral, you can see it starting off and getting smaller, and as if it's spiraling downhill. Now, this is before the murders. And as you can see, we're reading somebody's brain print. What is happening to him in his mind? He's spiraling downhill. And you can see it right in the writing, and you look at it like a big picture, and you see it, what's happening in the general senses of his brain. Now, why don't we get into a few little more specifics? Why don't we look at the next slide? Now, here is the letter I. The letter I is a very important letter because what is it? It's not just a letter. It's how you represent yourself. Me, myself, and I. Now you notice that the top part of this I ends in a little sharp point. I've mentioned sharp points before because when you see a sharp point, it means somebody who has a temper needs to get their point across and will jab you, whether it's verbally, say something critical, or they may lose their temper and physically harm you. The other thing you may notice about this I, or all the I's in this letter, is the separation from the top to the bottom and the vertical line. The vertical line, which is actually quite small, is how the person, him or herself, in this case a him, Chris's I, is the vertical. The top and bottom is the family connection. Notice that there's quite a big separation between the vertical I and the separation that would be family. Why don't we look at the next slide? Now, this is an interesting slide. And if you look at that second letter, you will notice it's a phallic symbol or resembles a small male's part. And when you see phallic symbols in handwriting, it almost always means that the person is into or obsessed right now, at least while this is going on in his handwriting, with kind of kinky sex. So when you see letters that turn into phallic symbols, you're dealing with somebody who's obsessed with some kinky sexual activities. Now, that might be one of the reasons that propelled him. You start to see phallic symbols. I would be very interested to see when these phallic symbols started in his handwriting. I don't know that, but here it is before the murder, we're starting to see a phallic symbol. Why don't we look at the next slide? Now, I find this one very interesting. When you see a quote bad guy, there's two different kinds, maybe more than two, but there's the kind that you are afraid of when you see him. He has tattoos all over his face or a big swastika on his head, and you go, oh my God, this guy is scary. But what's scarier than somebody who appears scary is somebody who appears nice, appears fine, but is really very dangerous. Now, that's what a con artist is. They appear like you can read them. They appear nice, and then boom, they take you for what they can. I took a word out of context in his letter. Now, if you read the letter, I'm sure you would have read this word and thought you knew exactly what it said. But what could this be? It could be an LIVS, LINS, or HU, I don't know. And in fact, if you just look at this, you don't know what that says. Go back and if you rewind, you will find what this word is, and you will think you read it. Now, that is exactly what a con artist hopes. They will appear one way, and they want you to think you're reading them. They want to think you know what they're saying and doing. But in reality, you can't read them. You don't know what they're saying. And when we deal more with con artists as our shows go on, one of the things in common, and it goes over and over and over again, when you take words out of context, you absolutely can't read them. But when you think you see it, you read it perfectly. That's a con artist. And that is what Chris Watts was, and I'm sure still is. Susan, you're the face reader and you're a great reader. Let me ask you a question. What word do you think this is? What could this be? What are some of the things you see in this?
I don't have any idea. In the beginning, was under the impression he says him, but I think he tried to say hang, like hanging on there. No idea. You're the expert, but like really, it to me is like doodles, like when kids try to write a word and they don't know what they're writing. But more of them is like the tilted to the H, then I think it's an H and an L to the left, and the S to below. So I'm sure it's something behind that. What is that, Michelle?
Well, really what this is it's confusion. And exactly what a con artist wants somebody to feel. They give you something and you try to pretend, maybe I can read it, and maybe you see something in it, but maybe you don't. But if you want to see something, you see it. You are exactly right that you can't read it. And anyhow, you'll go back, we'll read it, what it is. But like I said, in context, you can read this word as clear as day. But that's how you know from a handwriting if someone's a con artist. Take words out of context. And if you can't read it like this, you are dealing with a con artist. So Susan, thank you so much. You couldn't read it because you can't read it. And that's what this man wants subconsciously. He can't help but to put it in his brain writing, his handwriting, that he's a con.
Michelle, I have the honor and the luxury to study with Aminoan Sapir. He was a polygraph and interrogator in Israel, and now he's doing this. He's in the United States. And when I study with him, says one of the biggest problems my students have is they don't read what they see on the paper. They allow their own dictionary to fill on the gaps. But if we can get naked of what we know in our bias, less we know about the subject that we are reading, more truth we can find. In my case, when I read a face, I prefer not to see the face on absolutely anything about the person to be more accurate and not allow my bias. What happened when you have a handwriting? How is your process for that?
It's also very similar. Example, once you know somebody, I tell people, if you want to have somebody's handwriting analyzed, if you're dating somebody, get it early on, because once your emotions take over, once you think, oh yes, I know this person, it's very hard to see things. It's hard to see, wait, he's a con artist. I don't want him to be a con artist. It's hard to see, oh my God, he has a temper. Well, maybe I made him angry. That's why, as you say, looking at it naked, not having your personal bias, because once your emotions get involved, you cannot be unbiased. So I also like to pretty much just look at a handwriting, not know that much about the person. However, when I go into details, let's say I'm working on a case for the police, or I like to know some details, because sometimes I'll see something like a numeral 2 or something without asking questions like, what does 2 mean to this person, or 4? And it could be they were the 4th child. Or so once I get my basis, then I like a little feedback so that I can be clearer in some of the things I'm seeing. So
I do the same. I wanted to be naked in the beginning, and when I have the initial reading, I need confirmation to understand certain features, because like
Right.
you, depending on the context, after I do the initial report, I need context to finalize the report. But it's
Right.
really interesting that both of our craft need to be no information previous to be more accurate in what we do.
Right. So it's a combination. I always say it's a little like being with a psychiatrist. You don't want to tell them everything, but the more they know, the more they can interpret the things that are going on in your life. So I use both, not knowing anything, give a, clear analysis. And then if I know things, I can be more pinpoint accurate. So thank you, Susan. I loved how you explained the combination of how we do faces and how we do handwriting. Thank you so much.
All of us make a whole, and that is the best part of this team.
Yes, thank you.
Michelle, it's so interesting about the eye, because it's almost like a hieroglyphic or whatever, however you say that. You do see those 2 hovering lines and the line in the middle. And I find that incredibly, I'm going to look for that in people's handwriting.
Right.
So does that mean he has trouble connecting to himself? Or I know you had said to others, is it both?
It's usually family. The vertical stroke is the person, the down stroke. The above stroke or the below stroke is usually, could be a parent, it could be a wife, it's your family.
So he's
it's
not
how
connected.
You connect. There's no connection. And then at the top, which if you want to go back somebody, you'll see that it's bent. The top stroke has a curve. You think of someone who's weightlifting and they're pulling something down. They're trying so hard to control things. So he's trying to control, but that's spiraling down. It just can't stop.
Oh my gosh. I have 100 questions I'm going to ask you on Patreon, and I want to ask all of you tonight in Patreon Live with our Patreon members. I want to ask all of you, do you think now that he's in jail, like anywhere in his face or in his word statements or in his handwriting, is he the type of guy that's going to feel guilty about it? Like, is he in jail saying, wow, I really lost my shit there. Like, how did I kill my own kids? Don't tell me now, Susan. Stop shaking your head. We'll talk about it tonight, you little stinker. All right, Lena Cisco, do you have any questions? Or Susan of Michelle?
So I know the felon's claw, but I do not know the devil's hook. Was it the devil's?
No, it's the devil's fork.
The devil's fork. So I
Yeah, it's a very good one. You'll love it.
All right. Okay.
All right. Susan.
I have only one. He capitalized some words that is make a difference. Like some ever at first like look like capital letters and they're different than the other ones. The words are different than the rest of the handwriting. It's make a difference.
Yes, when you look at handwriting, again, like when you look at a face or the statement someone makes, you're looking for consistency. The more consistent somebody is, the more predictable they are. The more there's something big and now it's small and now it's big and now it's capital and now it's lowercase, and you can't predict what it's going to say. You can't predict, why is this capital? I don't know. That's an unpredictable personality.
Thank you.
It's unbelievable. It's you're the artist in the group. It's just like looking at a piece of art, noticing how he goes from bigger to smaller. If you just stop and forget there's words on the page and just say, okay, imagine this is a picture, an art.
Right.
You would, I think, be able to see it more. And you know, you can't unsee what you're learning with us. You can't unlearn it, unhear it, unsee it. We are the Profiler Task Force, theprofilertaskforce.com to find out more. My name's Janine Driver, as the host for the month of October in 2020. And this will be my last segment. Next month in November 2020, Lena Cisco takes over. I'm up next, I guess, ladies. And I'm going to take us a little deeper down that rabbit hole that Michelle showed us with the black and white to what is, you know, what truly is disgust. You know, Lena started the party talking about disgust, and I'm going to land this plane on, you know, to really get you to understand what is disgust. When do you have it? What does it symbolize? When does it indicate? And then you can judge for yourself. Why is it so out of place with Chris Watts? August 13, 2018, Shan'ann Watts, pregnant, murdered at the hands of her husband, 2 young daughters, Celeste and Bella, also killed at the hands of their dad. He confesses, Chris Watts, the father/husband, on November for first-degree murder. In between those two, from the event of murder to him confessing, I did some social media on him and was very concerned. As a matter of fact, I was really emotional about it because I said, you know, I have a family member who's a battered woman. I myself was at the hands of an old lawyer boyfriend of mine who beat me up and left me for dead, which is a story to talk about maybe another time. And so I have a kindred spirit to battered women. And if you had ever told me I would pray that Shan'ann Watts, pregnant, was a battered woman, I would have said you were out of your mind. I would have never prayed for any woman to be, or any man to be battered at the hands of someone they love. But I was praying because that was going to be the best case scenario based on what I watched with Chris Watts here. Now, he did different things, several long eye closes, right? So this is that eye blocking that we don't want to see it. We don't want to hear it. And he showed anger quite a bit. As a matter of fact, when I play my video, I'm going to kind of fast forward it back and forth and see if you can spot it as you begin to go deeper down our rabbit hole of learning how to trust your gut intuition, because your stomach is sending messages to your brain all the time. Wait, look for this, listen for this, read this, decode this. Disgust is where I'm going to hang out in the bottom left of your screen here, just like Lena, going a little deeper. And then that duping delight that Lena did such a fabulous job. Thank you, Lena, of talking about the duper delight. First, let's look at this. I want to take you on a journey to understand disgust. So I'm going to hopefully disgust you at home and disgust my fellow profilers here. This is dust mites that are in your house. This is what they look like under a microscope. And the number one way to prevent dust mites are to take your shoes off at the door. As a matter of fact, with dust mites under the microscope, things on your couch, on your floor, in your bed. If you have toddlers and newborn babies, let me tell you, their sheets probably have dust all over them. Or what are they doing? Your babies are putting old, dusty, stuffed animals into their mouth, right? They're licking the dust off of things. And it's even proven that there's often arsenic in dust, and that's coming in from these outside contaminants. And so this is, if you zoom in, this is all over your house. One of the ways to decrease it, again, take your shoes off. That's one of many ways. At the front door, and the dust will go down dramatically in your house. If you have pets, same thing. They're walking in with all of this stuff from the outside, and it's all over your house. This right here is a dead mouse found inside of some of this cooking sauce. There's this dead little teeny mouse. Look at Lena. You can't see them. I probably should have kept the ladies on. I don't know if Susan can throw you back on, but Lena has literally her hand over her mouth and her hand over her face, and now her hand is over her mouth like this, like wanting to throw up. Michelle is resting her hand like this with some deep swallows. It almost looks like you're chewing gum. Please tell me you're not eating while I'm
I'm chewing gum.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Susan, feel free to slap you ladies back up on the screen while I show a couple discussed. I don't know if it's easier said than done. Can you put everyone on real quick?
Okay, let's get the ladies on. So on the...
Because I'm going to have you vote too. We're going to play a little game here. Discuss.
Oh God, you're going to play... What I think is going to be painful. Okay, we are all in again.
Okay, so imagine you're making, an Asian dish at home, and you take out your enchilada special sauce, cooking sauce here, masala, whatever it is, and there's a mouse that comes out. Okay? As you're making the dinner. I remember once my sister Carrie came to visit me in Connecticut, and it was my first apartment, so people had donated dishes and pans, and my sister made this amazing chicken dish with pasta, and it was with artichokes and garlic. And she's like surprising me when I come home from work. I worked for ATF, it was my first job, 1992. And I come out and this amazing dish she made was on the pot and the big giant pan I never dusted. It was over the sink. And I looked at her, I go, you put it in the dirty pan. She goes, who puts dirty pans above their refrigerator? I go, I do. I haven't had time to dust them all. I just moved in. So the whole food was, you could see along it was really gross. So we did not eat. She goes, you could eat what's on top. I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. All right, this is at McDonald's, getting some chicken tenders at McDonald's. True story right here. And
I don't eat anything who have a head on it.
Okay, so I want you to look at Lena's behavior, especially because she's super into animals, okay? So I want you to look at what happens when something's really disgusting. What is Lena doing? She's eye blocking. She's like holding back vomit. She can't even look at this. This happens when there's something we just don't want to see. Susan's touching her nose right here. Okay, right here, a woman is eating this soup at a McCormick's and Schmidt's restaurant, which I've eaten at those many, many times. I like them. And she's biting something kind of chewy. And she spits it out. Ladies, what do you think was the chewy thing?
I'm not looking.
I'm afraid to ask.
A condom. A condom.
Oh, gross. No, that's gross.
Condom. Okay. So Michelle can take the dead animals in the food, but she can't take the condom in her mouth.
No. What's that say about me?
Okay. So here's our little game before we get over to Chris Watts. Okay. So disgust is all about repelling contamination. Okay, so discuss repelling contamination, but here's the trick. It's not just about contamination. A couple studies have been done. I'm going to go over a couple. One is people are asked, would you eat food? So I'm going to ask you ladies, and I'll ask the people at home, ask yourself this. Would you eat food that was touched by a sterilized cockroach? So there's no contamination because he's sterilized.
Do you mean that the cockroach can't have babies? He's sterilized?
No. He's been cleaned. He's been like bleached and cleaned or whatever, however you sterilize it dead. But it touched your chicken masala or your toast with avocado. And they touched the cockroach onto your food and you know it's sterile. There's no germs going to be left. Would you eat that food? Yes or no?
Probably.
Yes, so, yeah.
If I was hungry.
Susan?
I'm more afraid to humans not washing their hands that the cockroach sterilized. So yeah, I would eat it.
Okay, I would not. So there's a disgust sensitivity. So we all have different levels of disgust sensitivity. Here's the next question. Would you eat chocolate shaped in dog poop? Like it has a little twirly dog poop, but it's fudge, would you eat it?
I don't eat sweets, so I'm out of the question. Good for me.
Chocolate, I would, but I can't stand fudge. So if it was fudge, no way.
Just regular chocolate, you would. Michelle, would you eat it?
Yeah. I mean, the shape wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
Me too. I would eat it. And Michelle, Susan, the fact that you don't like chocolate, I don't know how you got on the panel. I don't think you're returning next week with that.
I love pizza and chicken wings.
Lena, you brought Susan to the mix. You obviously did not scan her well enough. Who doesn't like chocolate? Chocolate gets me through some very difficult times. All right, so now let's do this quiz, right? So there's a guy named Jonathan Haidt, a researcher. Him and his team did this disgust sensitivity test. And so here it is. The question is this, and I'm asking you at home as well as my profilers. If there was a bed at a hotel and you checked in and you knew someone died there yesterday of a heart attack in that bed, but they've changed the sheets, brand new sheets, but someone within 12 hours of you being there yesterday died of a heart attack in this bed, would you sleep in this bed or would you ask for another room? So first, going to the people at home, think about it. Ask yourself what you do. What's your disgust sensitivity? Next, Susan Ibitz, would you sleep in the bed? Yes or no?
I need to confess, I bring a blue light to my trips to see how.
Yes or no, Susan?
Yes.
Land that plane. All right, Michelle, yes or no?
If I had to, that would make me nervous. But if I had to, but if I could get another room, I'd get another room.
All right, Lena Cisco.
No way. Done.
Yeah, me neither, right?
No way.
But disgust is repelling contaminations, right? So where's the contamination? They changed the sheets. Disgust is very interesting, okay, because it's more complicated than we may think. So a study was done, and what they found out with jurors is that jurors with high scores in disgust sensitivity, like me for sure, are more apt to find the defendant guilty. But yet, what? You're supposed to be fair and impartial when you're sworn into a jury. But if you have this high disgust sensitivity, especially if they're showing scenes of the crime, they're showing the dead wife or the dead child, right? And so that you immediately are more apt to find the defendant guilty. You know, that whole innocent before reasonable doubt, you know, goes out without reasonable doubt goes out the window. So this is, let me ask you this. Can you explain why? So many people, so Lena, you said absolutely not. Why would you not sleep in the bed?
Because I'm thinking that they contaminated the rest of the room and it got contamination beyond just the sheets.
But it's a heart attack. Like they got him right away, right after he died. Like,
yeah, nope. I think, yeah, I associate death in that room, probably.
Okay. So when we can't just literally be incredibly articulate, like I know if I told you as a fact there's no other contamination, would you still want to sleep in that room? The answer is probably no for you, Lena, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's definitely a no for me. So this is called moral dumbfounding. Moral dumbfounding is emotion based, right? So it's not connected with careful thinking. I think with most disgust, we think disgust happens with careful thinking. It's not the case, just like we have here with the jurors. So, you know, if it was me and I was, you know, and a jury consultant, I would say, listen, let's ask them a couple of questions on their, you know, disgust sensitivity test. So if I'm trying to put that guy in jail, I want to have what kind of person on my panel? Someone with high or low disgust sensitivity?
Hi.
Hi.
Right. So I want to like stack up the gross, disgusting pictures and, you know, a baby onesie, like a guy named Neil Entwistle killed his wife and child in Massachusetts years ago. And they put the baby onesie on a board and brought it in. It was like, so you would want that if you want to try to influence the jury. But I have a funny feeling lawyers don't even know about this. That's what you learned from us over here at the Profiler Task Force. My name's Janine. I'm the body language expert. Now let's take it over to this guy, back full circle to where Lena Cisco brought us in with this disgust. So I want you to think about, yes, disgust is repelling contaminated objects. And there's this emotional based disgust where you can't necessarily pinpoint what it is. So what is he disgusted about? Maybe we'll never know, but we certainly know it's out of place. This is when Shan'ann, who is pregnant, and Bella and Celeste, his two young daughters, were just missing at this point. And these were the interviews that he did. So I'm going to show you this video really quick. And how I'm going to do it is a little different than Lena, how she showed it. I'm just going to speed through it. And I want you to see if you can see what we see as the profilers here. Okay, so look at this. Right. So we saw a little bit of a tongue protrusion sticking out. We'll talk about that in a different episode. We've not discussed tongue protrusions just yet. But so just look and get the vibe. Think like an artist like Michelle. You know, what would this art kind of convey to you? Does it convey sadness? Does it convey fear? Maybe a little fear with that pacing back and forth, but maybe less fear and more nervousness there. Right. So we even have this, see this eyebrow flash here? So I don't know if you saw it there a second ago. There's a little eyebrow flash right there. His eyebrow goes up and down. That's surprise right here. So what I like to do, this is some anger with that gritting teeth. I first, before I find the case and listen to what he says, I just do this exactly. I'm showing you my procedure. I just go through and I go, before I know what he's saying, what's he saying with his body language, right? So then I can spot everything. There's another tongue protrusion. That's a different one than what we saw before. And I'm just slowing it down. And so when I watched, there were another eyebrow flash that happened, some eye blocking there, his eyes squinting. So let's see. There was a little splash of disgust right here. Okay, right there. So disgust is the nose either wrinkles or the upper lip comes up or both. Hold on. And he leaks disgust a couple times in here. So right here, this is not, there's some smiling. Look at this. Right? So if you can just watch videos without the sound first, play a little game, I promise you, you'll start to improve your emotional intelligence with social awareness. And then when you go back and watch it, you'll be like, holy crap, he said that while he was smiling, right? So another tongue protrusion and then the lips disappear. So ladies, that's what I have for you. That's
Thank
it.
you.
That's my time. Any questions? I'd love to stop my screen and then open it up for questions, and then we'll close out the show.
Janine, I really love that. I love the fact that you look at the body language before you hear the words. And I think that's really a wonderful exercise. I watch all these shows on TV about where they take the guy and question him. And next time I'm going to record it and then put it on silence and just do what you tell us to do. I thank you for sharing that information.
Michelle, thanks for that feedback. I think also write down some things that pop up for you. You're like, oh, I feel like the disgust just showed up there, or lip lock, or tongue stuck out, or anger, or eyebrow flash, right? And so if you start to just write those down, when you rewatch it, you'll be training your brain on what to look for. And we're always looking for a baseline, all of us. What is your normal behavior? And when you change that baseline, we call it a hotspot. This is like something you say, wait a minute, I've got to dig a little deeper here. So I love that. Any other questions from Lena or Susan about our disgust exercise? You're welcome. By the way, you won't get any of that data out of your head. The people at home too. I'm so sorry I did that to you, but I want you to experience it.
No,
Mark?
we are not sorry. Maybe for the
Sorry,
patron meeting after the show, how much your disgust has to do how much you has been exposed. I've been on crime scenes when I see brains on the wall. So I know Michelle have the same sensation. So my disgust and my impression wall is different than maybe other people. So in my case,
sensitivity, we call it disgust sensitivity.
It's for the patron. So let's see what happens.
We'll go deeper. We'll have them do the test and we'll see what their results are and
let's see what happened. I'm intrigued by that.
This has been the Profiler Task Force, our website, theprofilertaskforce.com. We love that you're here. We want you to trust your gut. We want you to listen to those gut feelings, and we want you to protect your family, your friends, and your finances. We love you. We're cheering for you over here. Please stay connected. However we can help you, even if you're not a Patreon member, check us out at theprofilertaskforce.com, and you can send us emails there. And as we wind down one last time, Lena Cisco, how can people become an ambassador of the show, actually direct the show and join us with our VIP guests? This show airs every Wednesday night at 5 p.m. East Coast time. And our live show is at 9 p.m. East Coast time for Patreon members only. Lena, why don't you close it out for me with Patreon and close out our show?
Sure thing. So if you go to our Patreon website, and the link is going to be provided to you below. And if you don't see the link, it is patreon.com/Profiler Task Force. If you become a Wise Owl ambassador, you get to own and produce, I guess, our after party show. So it's where you join us, and for 30 minutes to 45 minutes, sometimes an hour if we have a special guest, you get to meet amazing people that we bring on. You also get to ask us any questions about that episode, and we're going to do games with you, and we'll put you through some tests as well. So you kind of get a peek into us and our world that we live in. So we really love to meet you guys. If you join there's a Curious Cat and a Sly Fox. If you join Curious Cat, you are welcome to come to the after party and view it. You're just not participative. So if you really want to get in and interrogate us, become a Wise Owl ambassador. We look forward to getting to know you guys and seeing you there.
Thanks for being here. Bye, everybody.
Yeah,
I love you, ladies.
Yeah, we're out.
I love you, ladies.